Welcome to the explanation portion of the video. So in the beginning you saw the final product, and now I'm going to elaborate what I did with the product, what I did with the project itself. So let's take a dive in. Again, much like most of my projects, I used Unreal Engine 5, as I did recently in the last two projects. This is the third one. I used Blender for modeling, and I used Substance Painter or Adobe Substance or whatever it's called these days for the textures. And a little bit of Photoshop, excuse me, and PureRef. So let's go into the perspective of the project. So this is the final look of the project that you would probably see on the ArtStation itself. Ignore the flickering. And to not shut down my computer, let's turn this to non-colored, non-rendered, unlit. So let's start at the beginning. So this is my ref board in PureRef. Again, most of the pictures I came across from Reddit, either minimalism, brutalism, hostile architecture, 80s architecture, liminal space, or any other more, let's say, style, visual, aesthetic approach to photography or something, or our collective Twitter. Now, this was the original one, and god damn, my voice. The original idea for this project was much bigger, and I started working on it in late December, a week before New Year's, as I caught COVID and basically had to do something in the 2 weeks of isolation. And of all the things that I did, all the things I want to do, it became too massive. It had so much potential, but it was too massive. I couldn't really organize anything, and I just decided, okay, I'm gonna do one specific thing, and I chose this hallway. Now, have the picture side by side so you can compare the final result, or I'm gonna put it in post. But basically, this hallway kind of caught my attention because it has a few things for it. It's very metallic, which opposed to other things that I do are not really that metallic itself. They're more natural things, or let's say not reflective, and have a little bit of a color per se. But here we can see a central focal point, a nice little yellow line that guides you through it. A little bit of color here and there, especially with the green on the center and on the side. A striking top centerpiece, as in the lights and the lines guiding you, and the hallways or walls themselves being very desolate. And I thought this would be a really interesting project to tackle because, one, it has repeatability, so I can make one hallway and just stamp it, and I can try to figure out how to do that most effectively. Also, it has a curve to it that goes in a certain direction, so I could try to do it within Blender and have it be as a static mesh, its own thing, or as a blueprint in Unreal, which I could theoretically make an infinite hallway, basically adjustable as much as I want. And yeah, that is basically why I chose this project. So let's get into it. So again, everything you see here you're gonna get if you buy the project files, which are €1, $1, or something euros, doesn't matter. So in here it's organized TM, are all the meshes. Cinematics, I have the sequence of the camera going through the entire hallway. Collections empty, of course. Materials, let's go through textures. These are all the textures that are baked. Basically they were projected on a flat plane within Substance and then just exported within into the project, and there's no real normals besides the normals that come with the materials or textures themselves. So maybe this is just problematic within the naming scheme, but it'll survive. And these materials, let's say light green is based on, if I'm not mistaken, is this the master? This is the instance. Another instance. Light master, there we go. So this light is a master material. Basically, I put in the basic things that I need for the lighting effects, which are on the ceiling and in the little side lights here. So this and these use the same master material. They're just set up, or let's say colored differently. So this one has an intensity of 1, a color of whatever green this is, and this one is a little lighter but still emits a certain color. Now here we have master material, and this one was interesting. Let's unlit this. So this is we'll go through the project itself screenshot by screenshot later on, but I would just like to elaborate on why I'm going through this now and not later. Basically, I figured out, or let's start here. Initially, I had these materials, or let's say materials created out of values. Basically, the color is a parameter. So any instance material that I made, I just changed the color and it changed the color on the fly, no need to reprocess. And the same was with the metal value. Again, just put into the metallic, and the roughness value plugged into the roughness. So most of these material, well, basically all of them, were based on this. But as you can see, I have a different value. It is a texture that is a parameter that goes to the rough and the metallic. So with this approach, this kind of parameter, the images looked fantastic. Like halfway through the projects and at the end, the images, the renders looked fantastic, but there were issues. Issues with the rendering. If you had a still image, the image would look fantastic. If you had a moving image like I had, there were rendering issues, moving and flickering shadows the entire time. And that is something I didn't find acceptable, because if I just want to make a static image, fine, do whatever you want. But I'm trying to focus on actual moving images, and I kind of want to fix those issues and take them out. So what I did was I made materials, textures, parameters, so I can switch out the color value. So basically a 1 is completely white and a 0 is completely black. So I could switch this out for a black texture and it would be the same value as in 0 in metalness. And that's how I basically had like a 10, 20, 30, whatever, from 0 to 100 in steps of 10. And that basically fixed the entire issue. No. So when I go, let's do material matte 5, whatever. The color is changeable, that is not a problem. But the values here, again, this is metal, this is roughness, and this is 100%. If I change here, if I put in the value, let's say 50, there is a texture named 50. That means this is 50% black, white, or just gray. Or if I wanted more, I just like 60. Or if I thought that, okay, maybe between 60 and 70, okay, maybe 65. And that is how I adjusted these things. Now, granted, this could be 1 pixel big, basically a kilobyte of information, nothing. These are 1024, just purely because it is a standard size and I didn't want to experiment further. But this approach fixed everything, and because everything came from this master material, when I fixed that, every material had to be changed by hand, but every material had this changed applied automatically. So it was about an hour of annoyance, but the rest easy. And then the textures here, as I said before, are basically just baked materials, but as textures. Wood, tile pattern, you have this means that this is a tile pattern, while the regular tile is this one. Also note, if some of these things are, let's say, improperly named, again, I started this during COVID and during a very stressful period during work, so I apologize for that, but that's why it's $1. It's for you to experiment with. And yeah, these are all the props. So, let's go through think how it's built. The main render here, as I said, was this view. This is the money shot. Take it in. I can see it slowing down on my screen. So it is very reflective, and I wanted to really focus on the reflections because Lumen, I'm using Unreal Engine 5, and I wanted to give it a shot, so I didn't have to bake anything, didn't have to play with probes that much, so why not? Let's go all out. And somewhere in between, as a joke, I thought, well, everything is so clean, so reflective, I better put this in as a nice little hint to everything is clean. Let's put it on lighting only. No, that is still too much. Unlit. And when I was making the hallway in the concept, it was just a straight hall, basically this view. But I thought, well, what's the point of making just this view? I'm already making everything tileable on 50. Basically, if you move anything on 50, it's going to be snaps on 50. Why not make a longer portion of this? So I made also the stairs and the upper portion of the stairs. So let's just look at this. You see everything is made so whichever direction you look, you're gonna have something there. Now in the video, I don't showcase this because there's no point in looking at this. You're looking at the hall. This is just to help with the shading and a little Easter egg. Or just so that the lighting falls correctly, like if it would have fallen from this area or how it bounces. I think it's a neat little touch. And now to show you how this actually works. Again, as I said, in 50s. So anything you move, it snaps in 50s. So it's on a grid system. This, again, is on the side with the center being the center of the map. So if I just wanted to, let's say, exchange this with a wall, let's see, where does it? Is under shell. This is under shell, so if I just input, where did I put it now? Shell. Put this here, it'll be replaced by wall, but we have some things to delete, and now we have a wall. Of course, right click, transform, X, no, Y, there we go. And now I have a wall. And I wanted to build on that modularity with the idea, as I said, if I put it in a blueprint, I could just make it infinite. Now, there's a problem that arose while making this. Here I have two examples of the blueprint. I downloaded the blueprints from YouTube channel. I'll link it in the video and in the description. It really elaborates well on how it functions and why it functions the way it does, but when I noticed, it was very slow. So let's say I extend it. Will it work? There we go. It popped and it made as many sections that it needed, but we have only one type of wall. You can put in different versions, but it's random. So again, I would have needed to adjust that a lot, but with the timeline of a month that I gave myself, it wasn't reasonable to do it or possible with everything I had going. These are just two versions. One is, let's say, a certain angle, the other one is a different angle. And there's another thing. Ooh, these are so slow. The other thing, while I did it in blueprints, the lighting was completely different. So let's just do this here, lit. You see how this works? This looks nice, this looks great. Now I'm gonna make this invisible. Just gonna hide it, find a BP, and set this to 0. The lighting is completely different. This is much, much brighter. Honestly, it looks much better, but then there's a different issue. Because of it, there's a lot of floatiness, apparently. There's a lot of twitching going around in the shadows. Like, objectively, this looks better as a render. But as I was playing with the materials, I'll show you with the renders themselves, this area at a certain value of a roughness, with a roughness of 35, exactly 35, maybe it's 34 and also 36, but 35, it started flickering, and you can see where the seam is basically as clear as day. And when you're moving a camera and a scene is just flickering, it's not really practical. So in a sense, I rather made a downgrade to the visuals, but made it technically, well, I improved it technically and to a point that I had complete control over it. While here, I really didn't. Like, I don't know why the shadows weren't working. It wasn't nanite, it was turned off, or at least I didn't know. I don't think you can even turn it on. I even made this itself a mesh. Basically, you can right click and merge actors to a single mesh, static mesh actor. It still didn't want to work. I tried as much as I could. It just didn't want to work. So I resorted to making this in Blender itself, which caused different issues with how curves work in Blender themselves, of which I'm not going to go into details right now, but it is a pain in the neck. And within Blender, I didn't really know how things would look, so I would change, move it, export it, import it, refresh it, and this took a lot of time. So, due to practical reasons, well, visual reasons, I changed the blueprint to a physical mesh, and due to texture reasons, I had to go from parameters, which are very cheap, to bitmaps, but luckily these are very non-distinct. The UVs didn't have to be clean or scaled properly, even in this case, but there was a scale within it. Also, as I did the floor, as I did this, I did all the other things here, even separate panels here, because I wanted to be able to scale it. There's a good example because of this. Let's go to detail lighting. There's an elevator here, and because it's a small portion, I had to cut it out of the wall And I made a good like 2-pair, or let's say 4-piece wall here, a 2-piece wall here, a 4-piece here, and some of the black portions are their own piece. So there was a lot of logic and fiddling around it. Another one, oh, I just noticed them. No, I didn't notice, mistake. You see here we have this trim, which in the concept there wasn't. I hope you have them side by side or switching between them. If I remove this, slow. If or when I remove this, let's just hide this. You see a little white line jumping like at the edge of the screen, following it. You can see it right down here. But if I turn this on, it hides it. That is a little trick that I figured out because I didn't want that to follow the render itself always. And because it seemed a bit bland, I decided to add this modern looking concrete bench. Nothing special, just a nice little model of a bench and a very basic trash can. Now the centerpiece in this project are this little LED panel and the yellow stripe, which is meant for the blind to orient themselves. If I'm not mistaken, to move or scratch or basically feel the bumps of where to go, as in direction. This was not difficult to do. No, I'm lying. This was difficult to do as the entire floor pattern. I will explain also later. It was difficult to find a nice shade of yellow that isn't too bright, too dark, too dirty, it clashing with the environment itself. So it was difficult to find such a nice looking pattern, and something that goes along the line also here. So when you're moving along, you can always see and follow these sides, and it just flows really nicely. Also these electrical panels here, there's a few panels in the video. I actually forgot I made these. Ooh, slow down. Like this one here, very invisible, not important, but adds a little bit. The same as I said with this, because everything is so shiny, I like things that are very, let's say, clean and, well, yeah, clean. And this worked really well, so I just decided to put this here to elaborate, like, oh, this was cleaned. Add something to the story, makes it more believable. Because if it's just clean and there's no explanation for it, like, that's too clean. It might look good, but have an explanation to it. I also wanted to put a cleaning cart, with a bucket of water and something, but it just didn't feel right. It took too much focus away from the centerpiece, that is the hallway itself. Also repeatable, the light fixtures and the lights themselves are movable. They do emit light, but I also added these little things. Because on the side of the render, you can see there's like a little strobe of light coming from the left side, not so much from the right side. And in the beginning I had like these lights on the side. But after I added these lights here, it actually added those little strobe effects to them. And they're not identical, they're close and they're good enough. Now let's go to the thing here. Again, there is a light here. I used a rec light, but whenever I came at a certain angle, it just looked weird. It started dissolving itself and wasn't consistent. So I replaced it with a point light and just extended it so that it has a little bit of a tail to it, and you can look at it from each and every angle. I'm sorry if it's laggy. Now, it emits light. Here we just have where are the controls? Here. They're central based. They're not based on the center of this. Just so I can place it and forget about it. you can see that it is just a box. It is a small box, nothing special to it, just a little brim. And the light itself is, well, basically a block that emits light. And that's how I basically fixed the issue of making one material work for everything, but if I remember correctly, it's better to have them separate regardless. Now this little doohickey here, it's basically, again, the same. There's nothing beneath it. And if you just look at the material, it is a material with this put in. I made this from a master material of this, and I just added the parameter of intensity so that when I make changes to it, I can just do it on the fly and choose how strong I want it to be. That is the only reason that it's a parameter. Otherwise, it can just be its own material. Again, yeah, this part, the floor is tileable. Oh, no, yeah. This is important. This is actually really important. This was originally one piece, and the lighting wasn't that good. So when I made it a separate piece, the lighting just got improved a ton. And this here, just this part here, or let's say the project in general, was theoretically done in a week and a half, let's say 2 weeks. And in between was a month of experimentation. What works, what doesn't, how do I get the better lighting, why the textures don't work, why is it flickering when I render it, where is this light source coming, why is this leaking, why is this not leaking, different materials, different this, that, night lumen. A lot of work went into experimentation despite not looking that much like that it needed that much work. It is surprising how much thought and effort I had to put in this. It was honestly technology wise, or just to get it figured out and working, I think it took the longest and the most time from anything. Modeling wise, very simple, very straightforward, just some complexity. Technology wise, how to set up everything clearly, and by far the longest. So so this in itself, oh, let's take a look at the stairs here. It's just the same thing, duplicated. This wasn't planned. This was hacked together to make it work. Basically the same thing as below, just transferred. This plugged in it. It works fantastically. This here is curved. This took me 2 days to figure out how to do properly. You'll see. And the railing here, it wasn't this complex. It was in the beginning just a basic railing, and before it looked like this. It had these little things, and maybe I'll still have the details here. Like, yeah, again, it just had the railing here, and then it was connected to the wall. But I just experimented a little bit, and in the end, it just worked well. So that's the basic setup of this. Let's go into Blender. This time, the Blender file that I'm including is a mess. It is by far a mess. There were so much fixing, messing up, and experimenting doing. I'm just including it because, here, have it. It might help you in one way or another. But it was just a mess. On 1, there's nothing. On 2, we have this. 3, we have the curve that is the Blender curve, so you can actually adjust it and see how it works. Yeah. 3. Sorry, I'm gassy. A lot of coffee. And 4, we have the separate elevator, which I wanted to animate and add some lights here, this, there. Again, didn't really work. And I made that separate thing, and in the end I join it, or yeah, I probably join it. Here, just see how it's constructed. It's basically a mirror. Yeah. This one there. Yeah. I maybe thought a mirrored elevator, but I just said no. If you want it, you're just gonna mirror it via y-axis, and that's it. The interior is non-existent. Is there anything? 5? What about 6? Nothing. So let's go to this. Let's take this part. Is this everything? Okay, let's no. Okay, this. Is this everything? No. This and this. Okay, let's say we have everything. Let's tab out or tilde / next to the numlock. Basically, this is where 90% of the work went. Figuring this out. Everything had to be set on a certain axis of 0, 0, 0, which you see here is not completely. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's basically moved by 1. Oversight or tactic. It was actually a tactic, although I could have moved it 1 further, but I'll explain this. Basically, I first made the first batch of this and then duplicated it to pairs of 2s because they were made like this. You see, it goes like small, tall, 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 smaller, and then the curve. And because each and every one of these was this, I decided to center it around the start of the 1, 2, 3, or the start of this, so that it's centered based on this center here. Not only did this complicate things slightly, because I'm probably a millimeter off by some areas, it wasn't centered, it wasn't basically blocked to a 1-to-1 scale. Everything I should have honestly just been like this and like this if possible. It wasn't. So that's where I found a few mistakes where in the end of the day I'll figure out, but you live, you learn. Now how this was created, basically I just made a plane, cut it up, and worked around designing the thing itself. Basically, I figured out where the splits, the cuts here were made them along these lines, and then just simply adjusted them. So there's a line here just to accommodate this here, because it's blah, and it's very flat. It's very flat. There's not really smooth edges. I mean, they're jagged, but that's why I have weight normal. And I knew, because I wanted to have this be on a blueprint, just infinite moving or infinite tiling, it had to be low poly to a degree. So this itself is 319 faces or 600 polygons. They're saying that is not a lot, but when for one section you need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these, basically 6 and 4, it's 2,400 polygons per this. So it's not the cheapest, but it's not the expensive, but it is the physically accurate. Because we're moving into high poly or high topology visuals, renders in games, I decided, well, baking is still usable, but I should experiment with these things to see how the light falls. What are the let's say, best worst cases of lumen, how to use it properly. I'm trying to figure out the technology behind it within Unreal, because I know how to bake. This could have been easily baked, but it's something I decided, it's not important. I have to go move on with the technology, so I kind of put it on the sidelines. I knew this could bring problems on the long term, but again, I saved some resources, hopefully I did, with the textures and stuff, so it's kind of canceled each other out. Also, on the talk of nanite and lumen together are very heavy, so just cutting one of those, it's like basically 50% of, I would say, resources back, or whatever the number is, it's resources back. So I try to optimize it as much as I could to a certain degree, because there's no point in making it max perfect topology or resource as light as possible. This is just an experiment. The fundamentals are still used, just more lenient, much like this thing here. I could have probably cut a few, let's say, loops here. As you can see, I could just delete them and it will still look good to a degree. So it can all be adjusted. And again, I just added the array modifier so I can make it as long as I wanted to. Everything was based on the first step here. Now, the same goes with the floor. I made one set here, a line, but here we have a problem. This is a repeating pattern that repeats 3 times. Let's say you have pattern, space, 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 pattern, space, 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 pattern. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is one pattern, this is the other, another pattern, the other. Oh wait, it's different here? No, it's not. Okay, cool. So I can do everything up to this side here and then repeat it. But to repeat it, I had to make these things repeatable and adjustable. So I had to make them the exact size that I knew would repeat. So this is its own thing. Basically, I made this one piece here and then figure out where the pattern would go. Kind of space it out properly, adjust it, and that's it. The difficult part was making it so it's like quadrant and everything is separate, because this helps with the rendering. In the end, when you look at the tile themselves, these are actual grooves. These are not normal. These are actual grooves. Sorry for the performance. But yeah, you can see there's actual depth within these. And it looks nice. Okay, not maybe if you look at this close, but you're not going to see topological issues with it. So, now the big problem was this, because if you do one section, let's say with this, if you want to space it equally as in 4, these are equally spaced as 4, but to make the grooves between them, I basically had to figure out how to make one perfectly sizable. So in the end, I made it 99% the proper size, and then I think I basically just expanded this to make it connect. And yeah, in the end, I just had to place the proper patterns, make sure that it repeats correctly, no mistakes, and of course I had to texture it or UV it properly. But basically, yeah, made the UV for this, gave it the texture. Sorry, prazna here means empty, which is this, or the empty areas between this. Uzorts is the pattern, which are these ones. Rumana means yellow, which are the yellow ones, and fuge are the in-betweens, but just select them and you see exactly what each thing is. And yes, it doesn't matter how these are spread out, because there's no baking, it's literally just a texture overlay. And even if you think, oh, they're just gonna start repeating themselves, it really doesn't matter. You're not gonna notice the pattern, which is, let's say, marbles and specks and sparkles. I don't know where the pattern is. You can't really see the repeating of it. So there wasn't really any danger with it. I think that's, okay. Then again, this thing, I just had to figure out how to make the pattern work, where to place it, and figured out the best thing would be to have it be cut in half here, have these things placed in the middle, and to break the pattern, as you can see, the pattern is here. You just move it, let's say, a few steps to a certain direction, so this looks centered. So in case there is a break in the pattern, in the texture, in the shading, whatever it is, it's harder to notice because there's an offset. And yeah, it's on the exact same way as all the other things, and much like the light itself, it's tiled. Oh, this looks like it's floating, but it's not. I did this 3 times just so that you have something to walk through, and actually added music to it, as you heard it. Is there anything I'm forgetting here? No, it's basically just a mishmash of everything. It's it's just wild. Yeah, everything is exported in single files. Where is it? Where is it? Marketing material. Secret. Yeah, let's go through the files. Icons here were downloaded from FreePic. Credits in the description of the video, and probably on ArtStation. I don't know. Properly credited. This is the things I'm preparing. Models. I think all models should be no. Wait. Output. Yeah, all the models. All the models are here. Some are unneeded, some are not. I try to clean things up as soon as possible. Probably I forgot something extra in here. It's nothing special, just have an insight to what I was doing. Then the textures are, well, basically prepared here. Self-explanatory. Material values. These are the gradients. Self-explanatory. Again, credits. These are the light up sign textures and the Blender file itself. It's called NP2 because new project 2, because there was another project before it. Let's see, these are the tests, not useful. And again, I used FSpy, a Blender add-on, to try to get the proper angles going, and this time it's not improperly placed, as you can see. Again, I used this. Everything got moved out and moved away. Now let's go through the renders to video captures. As you can see, a lot of videos. Let's see. So the project started on the 29th of December. Finished 14th of February, Valentine's Day. It's like I said, just called it. It's taking too much time. So let's go frame by frame. So this is how I started. Placed the camera in Blender and Unreal, chucked it into Unreal, made a render. So this is the basic hole, then size that I set. I was like, okay, let's just start somewhere. Okay, then I thought, well, let's make the tiles. This is where I made the tiles. Everything was working fine. You can see where the segments, these are the black portions of the wall, and it curves up nice and easy. Again, changed a bit of the wall, or maybe the camera shifted somewhere, or just the focal length, because I wanted to adjust it. We have a bit of more of the ceiling. Oh, of course, I'll go into something else again, backwards. Again, here you see the pattern. It now is finalized. I think the light design is finalized. So you can see this was 3 days. And within 3 days or 2 days, it already came to a certain area where I was comfortable. What is it? Yeah, closed off, double-sided, just a basic white clay texture. Starting with the color to orient myself and the sign. And this is where I started adding textures. As you can see, it's very shiny. And I wanted to have it be very shiny as in the concept, but not super shiny. Now, because this is just a texture that is placed on top of it, there's no baking or everything, it can be random. Each tile has its own, let's say the tile position is here while the UV is there. This becomes a problem if I wanted to add rough maps. So I would have to have a texture go across 3 textures. So I would either have to bake it or what's it called? Not stamps. Basically textures on top of it. Stamps? No, stamp. Of course I'm blanking out. But I would have to figure out that and work with that, and I just didn't have the energy and time to work on everything. So yeah, I left it like this until further notice. Yeah, just more playing out on textures and getting the feel for the lighting. Here I removed the hall because I knew in Unreal it became a problem, so I just removed it. And in Unreal now, here I started making blueprints. You can see it works, but I also noticed that it didn't work perfectly, but that was a problem for future Nick. As you can see, this looks fantastic. I don't remember if this was blueprint hallway or just or a mesh hallway. I don't remember, but we're getting the feel for this. And here you see I have spotlights to do the same effect within the reference image. And here the lights are just lights, just emitting, no real lighting going, just one single directional light, these side lights, and a skylight. This was this was just me trying to figure out the tiling of the pattern, which I realized I didn't need to, but it gave me something. It gave me an idea, the direction to take. So it also showcased something very important. See, here we have this look, like very dark, and there's this, and then there's a cutoff. This is where the blueprint started showing its problems. The reflections, the look, and everything just broke here. It didn't work. I didn't notice this because I was, oh, this is fantastic, but it just didn't work. Even in the second render, it looked fantastic, but too much. Here, the way this is set up, you can't really notice it, and this is where I forgot about it, so I just kept working, but there were these issues here. Hindsight 2020. I was working with the shadows and the lightness of everything, how it showcases it, and the materials of the orange yellow stripe. You can see there's actual bumps in it. So you want to bring that out and the lighting itself. So I was fiddling with the light and how bright it should be, how bright it will be. Here I added a little bit of green tint, maybe even bluish. And then I started working on the elevator look, and again updating each and every step. Here I added something here. Oh no, that's just the part of the elevator that I left. Doesn't matter. It's already looking a bit blurrier and dirtier. No, you may not present now, Renee. No. And they're starting to look nice. Oh, come on, Renee. Here I added a light, and more it will start to look clean. Like, this is where I want it to be. This looks fantastic. This is perfect for the ceiling. Oh, come on. But you can still notice there's a very distinct light thing going. Let's just turn this off for now. There we go. Professionalism 101. And it started creeping up on me. I was nearing the end point of the project. Like, basically this is almost it. Yeah, and then I thought, oh, looks great, let's add the bench. It looks nice, but there's something missing. And if we're gonna do tileable, let's or like, we're gonna make it more interesting. Let's make it more interesting, but this is where I notice a problem. This is jarring. This is unacceptable. From a distance or from the previous render, this is fine, but I adjusted the materials to look exactly how I wanted them. But other problems were arising, like, okay, maybe lights here are not working as I wanted them. Okay, cool, I can live with that, I can fix the lights, but that was just unacceptable for me, and I said, bite the bullet and fix it. But of course I added this because I needed something. I needed something to explain it. Here is a good example. I think I made this render intentionally. The back shadow moves a bit. It moves a little bit, maybe it's just different material, but the shadows are moving. It's like they're going forward, back, and like liquid. And I couldn't leave it be. So a few more test renders, and I'm like, okay, let's add the staircase. let's just make it work, make it more interesting. Like let's do a step up. Also on the renders, you see on the sides these little lines. You won't see them for long. These steps added so much to it, just figuring out how to make this work and have this be concrete. It just brought so much to the picture, so much personality and fine details. And then the curving of it. Was it too much? Was it too little? A lot of testing. This was 1-2 days of work just to get the flow right. Again, 1 to 2 days, that means 1 to 2 hours per day. And then adding some more details like, oh, you can't see it here. Doesn't matter. But yeah, it was time to fix the textures and the lighting. This is where I said, this looks fucking fantastic. But it looks too dark. But this was the, let's say, compromise to get the shadows here, or the lighting here, or the flickering, or whatever, the reflections to work. This is where I added, went to the extremes. It works, it just doesn't look the way I want it. Like, it's dramatic, but it's obvious that it's hiding something. If somebody asks me, oh, that's a good render, does it look like this because some sort of reason? I want to stand behind the reasons of why I do something, and the reason why I didn't leave this be, it just didn't feel right. I didn't know how to fix the problem, and if this was a game, I couldn't walk around the problem. I had to fix the problem, and this was the next step. I'm not 100% happy. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if there's a different approach to this. Maybe it's just because it's an alpha or in beta or whatever Unreal 5 is. Maybe this is a bug. Maybe it's a feature. I don't know. The blueprints itself, total new experience. Tiling of these things, new experience. No nanite, Lumen, new experience. There was a lot of new going on here. Also here you can see I added the little side panels so that there's less of a reflection. But you can, also you can still see some of the issues, the moving of the shadows. So this is where I was fixing things, and this is where I said, yeah, I'm happy with this. This is as much as I can fix. I have to call it quits. It's not perfect, it doesn't have to be, but it's 80-90% there, like the 80-20. I was spending so much time on fixing one thing, which was important, but not so important that I would extend the project for another month. Again, 1 to 2 hours a day, 1 minute, doesn't matter. And I'm happy with this project because I can, again, stand behind each and every decision that I made. And I think the yellowness, it just, the orange, it just looks nice. It adds a focus point. This thing here as a side gag fits into the picture perfectly. The light here, the glowiness of this here, the blurriness of this. There are things, of course, I would fix, like compared to this image here. It's a much better image, and even this here. But this is the combination of compromises, but is in the end a finished product. Is there anything else I'm missing? No. I'll add it, I'll probably add it, or if I added it in the videos of the errors that I had. I still know how to explain them more, but yeah, that is it for that. I mentioned what you're gonna get. It's gonna be on Gumroad and ArtStation. Very dark. Yeah, light. It's gonna be on my ArtStation and Gumroad store. $1. What is it? 85 cents euros. just to buy me coffee. You get the entire project, Unreal folder, project files, everything cleaned up. And yeah, thanks so much for the support. Thanks for watching. And I'm gonna take this opportunity to talk with you about my next project. So going through my portfolio, let's just open my portfolio. Blah, 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 blah. Ooh, sneak peek. I haven't named it yet, it's not uploaded yet. Looking at my portfolio, I went from single props like close detail to details, variations of something, props, blah, 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 blah. In the end, here I started making bigger things, more in depth, then further apart and bigger with some details, openness and closer. I realized that I have two options with my next project. Either I go huge in scale, which means if this is the size of the screen, a train will be just like a line going, and the rest could be like forest. I could go that scale with far distance details, or I could go small scale but dense, like a room, an apartment, much like this one, the kitchen remake, or this cabin, not even this hallway, but bigger. Same amount of details, just more rooms. And I'm literally flip-flopping, because if I want to go wide scale, big scale, I have to figure out how to make things look good, particles, things in the distance, how much I can see, resources. While in the close quarters, small apartment but dense, how many details do I need to make the thing feel good? But in this case, I'm gonna need to use things that are baked, things that are unbaked, just textures on it. It's gonna be a really nice mishmash of technologies and ideas, and I think that's gonna work better. But that's my thought process and the entire thing. And much like, I don't know if I explained it, but every new project is a continuation, or a, let's say, you more like pinpointing the workflow of the previous. Like Unreal 5, let's say this one was tiling, this one was Unreal 5 and lighting, but again, tiling, this one was detail, reflection work, and the last one was basically reflections, tiling, or modularity. So a lot of thought goes into these things. I'm just starting to ramble. Thanks so much for following. Thanks so much for supporting me. Hope you enjoy what you see. Enjoy digging the projects. If it's something I accidentally deleted within the resource folder, you can just hack it out of here. But usually it's not that problematic. Thanks so much. Take care, have fun, and hopefully see you in a month. Bye.